Welcome to another episode of In the Business with
Juan.
and Angelica. My name is Angelica Casares.
And I'm Juan Alanis. Thanks
Welcome. See, that was cool. Nice and sweet. It was like smooth.
Okay.
Welcome to another
episode. How
episode.
to start the show. We were like...
It has a new name, so we're trying to get like a new little like intro or something.
giving it a new spin.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is... We're like... We're getting ready to go back to Houston, so I was like, you know what, let's record an episode before we actually do, because what ends up happening a lot of times is when we travel, like it's harder to record, and we've been we take our equipment, but then it's just not ideal because we don't have the studio situation that we had anymore in Houston, so we have the studio here now.
Wah.
So it's
Juan's fault.
it gets a little bit more like complicated. So I'm like, let's just advance and get this recorded. So we're recording this like right after Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday's tomorrow, like whatever, like just to give you like a time and place, but we probably won't release it until later, like it'll be into December, just to kind of keep us steady or keep us regular on our regular schedule for release dates. But since we're talking about Thanksgiving, I think we had a pretty different Thanksgiving than usual. This year we celebrated here together, the three of us, and we didn't do turkey. We actually did surf and turf. We decided that we didn't want to do the traditional turkey because nobody wanted to make it, and we were like, it's gonna be too much like leftover afterwards. Like if we get a whole turkey just for the three of us, none of us really like the refrito, like after like the Thanksgiving, like the turkey. So I'm like, it's just gonna be too much. Like now the sides, we're like, yeah, well the sides we can like we can keep those and eat those because we will go through those. And you're pretty like Angelica does some pretty good sides that
Thank you.
she's pretty well known for.
I am actually.
She's got like a couple of ribbons that she's like, I won these and like the county fair and stuff like that.
Okay. What is going on? Is that the episode one?
No, I'm just playing. I'm teasing you.
I know.
Because you do have a few dishes that are always requested every Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about those dishes?
What? Okay. I think I suck at macaroni and cheese. I'm very good at mashed potatoes. And what was the other one?
The other one is the broccoli with rice.
No, I'm not really that great at that one. I think I'm okay at stuffing also.
Oh yeah.
The stuffing was pretty good.
The mashed potatoes I think are my favorite.
Yeah, because I've done them for years, so I think I'm pretty good at them. But I'm also good at like making anything potato.
Yeah.
So mac and cheese. I'm sorry, not mac and cheese. Mashed potatoes or like what do you call it? Like potato salad, stuff like that. Anything to do with potatoes, like I'm on it. Like I know what I'm doing.
Anything to do with potatoes, you're on it.
Yeah, like I know what I'm doing. I know what's up. I know how to like make them creamy or make them like less salty or like be able to like give it a different texture. Like I know my potatoes.
And I know that like you think like mashed potatoes, like okay, yeah, like mashed potatoes are mashed potatoes, but no, I mean like
not.
These are like mashed potatoes with like cheese and like cream and like all kinds of other stuff, bacon and like it's just like a whole like casserole almost like of mashed potato. Yeah. And it's like so every year like and she only makes it on Thanksgiving, so it's like
I know because it takes a long time, and especially even when it's like a small portion, it still takes a while. Because there's so many steps to it. So I'm always like on my feet for a very long period of time. The thing is you have to attend to it like the entirety of the time that you're cooking it. So it's not like things have to be hot as you're like putting it together. I don't like things to go cold. I feel like it just has a different consistency. So I'm on my feet no matter, again, I mean, the more that I cook, the more that I'm on my feet. But to like its whole entirety, like you have to get the potatoes exactly at the right moment. You know what I'm saying? So they don't like overcook. Yeah. But they're not like undercooked. It's like a right moment. It's like it's a different consistency.
There's like a chemistry to cooking. I was gonna say there's like a chemistry to. Like,
I don't know if there's a chemistry.
I feel like
definitely
there is.
It depends. Like for example, like russet potatoes versus like red potatoes versus like the other like golden potatoes, like whatever it is. They all have it. they all have their own like consistency, and depending on how long you cook them, it's how long you it's the texture you're going to taste. So how long you cook potatoes for, like, say, mashed potatoes is going to be different from when you cook potatoes to, like, potato salad. I'm going into detail. It's really unnecessary. Very necessary, but
I think it's.
I'm a potato.
No, but I do think there's a chemistry to like cooking, and I think the reason I say that is because this year I was like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna try my hand at like doing something different, and I was like, let me try making a pie.
Yeah.
And I it was like a chocolate peanut butter like pie or whatever. But the reason I say that is because I was like, it said to buy whipped cream. And then, like, I bought the whipped cream, and then it told me to whisk it, and I whisked it, and like I didn't have a blend, I didn't have an automatic one, so I did it with my hand, and then it like turned into this like thick consistency, and I was like, oh, and then it's like depends on what ingredients you add
Whipping
into
cream,
it. Yeah. It depends like what ingredients you add in or you don't add in, that what the texture becomes and how it changes.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, there's a whole texture. Like me as like somebody that doesn't really do this at all. I was like, oh man, this is like really cool. Like there is like a chemistry to cooking, but that kind of like takes me into kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Because I think. We've been talking, I think, well, obviously we transitioned our podcast into the business, in the business. And we've been talking we've started to introduce some topics that are connected to business.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that is often one of the first, or when you often will run into people that tell you that they're interested in, or they're thinking about starting their own business.
Yeah.
And kind of from thinking it to kind of actually doing it, there's a step, right? What would you call that?
There's many steps.
But what would you say, like once you're kind of ready to take that step and to do it?
Depends. I think it's not. Why? Do you have a certain term?
No, go ahead.
I want to hear yours. I want to hear you.
No, I was trying to get you to see, like, the term I'm coming to is like a leap of faith. What people describe.
No, it's not.
Like what people describe, like a lot of times when they think about like when they started their business, was taking a leap. They like finally took a leap of faith. If you've been thinking about it like for a long time,
I guess so. I mean, I guess I see why you're saying that. I guess yeah, it is a leap of faith.
But what were you gonna say?
But no, it depends on like.
I'm curious.
I guess it depends on what step you're in and what that leap of faith is going to be, like that turning point where you decide like, oh, I'm in. Sometimes it takes people a while. Sometimes it's like when they go completely full time as an entrepreneur, right? They quit their day job, and they completely like commit to it. Or some people, it's they take a really long time to like get like do the paperwork, right? To officially like file it. That's a leap of faith. Some people like even that point scares them completely, or when they expand, right? When they try to go bigger, right? That means there's more cost to it. There's more there's a lot of more dedicated time, things like that. So people can quit their 9 to 5 and then just kind of like suffice on whatever it is that it's giving them, right? But then some want to expand or go bigger. Yeah. And that's the part that people are like, oh, like, yeah, that's it. That's the one where my leap of faith is at. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's like there's different types of, I guess, leaps of faith, but and I get what you're saying, but I think I wanted to kind of like talk a little bit about kind of what it takes to take that initial leap of faith. Like if you were like going and doing something for yourself, whether it's part-time, whether it's full-time, whether it's like, taking, because at the end of the day, you're investing your time, you're investing your money, you're investing, into something, whether it's part-time or it's full-time, you're actually taking away from something else to be able to do something. Yeah. So I wanted to start there because I feel like a lot of times when we've had conversations with people about like, oh, you know what, like, so you guys are in business, that's cool, like, we know what you guys do or whatever, and it always comes up in conversations. So like sometimes, well, not always, but sometimes it comes up in conversations where it's like,
not always, no,
where it's like, oh, you know what, like, what is it like, how was it initially to start, or this?
Well, here, let me say this, because of the industry that we're in and we talk to other entrepreneurs or those who are interested in doing the entrepreneurship space, which is why this conversation comes up maybe often for us, but not like all the time. Not like everyday people come out to us like, oh, y'all are business. No. It's like because we're like in that space. And so the people who are interested in doing it, or they have ideas and they want to commit to doing it.
But I think there's a curiosity there. Like, I know for me, before I started a business, when somebody would say, oh, I'm a business owner or I'm an entrepreneur, like, I would be like, oh, okay. Like, I wonder, like, how they got started. You know, what was it? How was their, start? Because a lot of times you hear that it's difficult or that it's not easy or that, and I think there's different ways to go about it. I don't know that we went about it the smartest way in terms of the way when we kind of jumped into it, because I think one of the things that people say that you're supposed to do when you start a business is that you're supposed to have kind of accumulated a certain amount of money that you're saved up so that you can survive on that for a certain period of time. I don't think we did that. We definitely didn't do that. And
didn't do that. But if you remember what we did do, that kind of like, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this. And if you don't, they can they can edit this out. But what you did do was that you completely flushed out your what?
My 401k.
Your 401k.
Yeah.
Which is that was the leap of faith, right? That was the point of which that was the retirement. And we use that to kind of, we use that amount of money to live off of for the first few months.
But
and
comparably,
and it was a good amount, but it wasn't going to cover us for the year. It was going to cover us for a couple of months, which was, you know what I'm saying? So I've always thought in the back of my head, I always thought, okay, well, we need to restock into that. We need to push into that. But the only problem with that was that we wanted to expand the business, grow the business, and then two, there's a kid in college, and it's hard. It's hard when those expenses are there. But as we were very adamant, we were very honest with the kid when we told him, look, we'll pay for your education, but know and understand that this is our investment to you, with you, is that college education, that college degree that you are going to get, and it's our way of telling you that this is your head start, like this is your running start. So once you got 4 years, so once that's over, with the money because it's a way of saving for us. It's a way of I know how much we can save now when he's into college. I know how much we can pull into that retirement fund for us, whether that's and leave it there to either invest so it can have its own, it can make its own money, or leave it there, right, for it to grow and then figure out what we're going to do with it. But yes, so that was kind of our leap of faith for us. Was that?
I think that we did invest that, but I don't think it was a significant amount. Honestly, I feel comparable to what other people have, when people have 6 months, a year worth of income, it's a lot more than that. So I don't think that I feel like it was a significant amount at the time for us, but I don't feel like it was if you think about it and compare it to other business owners, you're
no, definitely
it's a
not.
drop in the bucket.
No, it is.
It wasn't the amount that
But for us, it was a large sum of large lump sum at once for us. And so we had to stretch it really thin. And then we were taking little odd jobs here and there. Do you remember that? Where we were taking little jobs of somebody needs this written and it's $250, or it's $150, it's $100 here and there to make ends meet. Do you remember that part?
Oh no, I remember because I was planning a lot of that. So a lot of times when you work in the content creation space, the blogging space that we were in, payments are 30, 60, 90 days. If you're lucky, they're 30, but normally they're 60 to 90 days out. So, So in order for you to accumulate any regular amount of revenue, you really have to be generating a ton of sponsored content that's going to get you paid in 30, 60, 90 days.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to estimate and budget like what you're going to like be making based on what you're creating. So, you know, I remember when we first did this, like we had that, like, I guess we'll call it like little seed money that we had. That was ours. And then we had, you know, we had projects that we were doing here
call
and
it
there.
seed money.
Yeah. And then we had like those projects that we had, like those like sponsored content. Like we did have a lot of, I won't say a lot, but we had like pretty steady.
Definitely a lot more than what we got now.
Yeah, it was pretty steady.
It was steady.
Sponsored content.
Yeah.
So I was like, as much as I was like very active and like trying to get people like, hey, like we're free agents at the moment.
We're freelancers. What you want?
We're free agents at the moment.
We have the capacity and we have an audience and maybe you want to reach them. What you got?
And I think that we ended up doing a lot of work that later on we wouldn't have done because it was something that was helping us and it was also helping the people that we were doing it for.
Yeah.
So there was kind of a, you know, it was like, you know, they were getting a benefit out of it. We were getting a benefit out of it. But it was like, you know, up tons of like little jobs here and there.
Yeah.
It was always like, you know, hey, we got to take pictures of this and we got to take pictures of that and we got to stage this and stage that. And it was like, it was a lot of work. So
it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work.
I think one of the things that it made me realize is like, man, like this is, it's great. But unless you're getting like a huge like sponsorship deal, like it doesn't pay off. Like
it doesn't.
It's a lot of busy work.
It is. It's a lot of like, it's tinkering with like, and it's running in circles a lot of the time. And so, yeah, like I do get it that some people like are in the space of like influencing.
And some people do
you
really
gotta,
well.
They do. And here's the thing. If you want to do it, you got to be, one of the things that we were never, Juan, is we were never consistent. Like we appeared, reappeared, disappeared, reappeared, disappeared. And I think because we were always dedicated to like growing a career, and that's where we've been consistent, is building our career, building our business. Like if you were like at the back end of like our, like the business part side of it, that's where we were consistent. Like we were like, it's meetings upon conversations and making sure we were thorough in certain areas and things. And which is why we've been able to grow the business. But if you want to do influencing, like you got to be consistent. Like you got to like, you really got to shake off like the notion of the embarrassment of doing it. Who might find it? Who might this? Who might whatever? Like, and really just create content and then try to get really good at it and better at it and learn. And honestly, like, I don't know if we would have ever been good at it or doing well at it if we were consistent with that. Like the whole, like the other side of you know, where we started, which was like content creation. I don't know if we would have been successful. I like doing it for fun, and I felt like that was like my away place, you know. But here, like on this side of things, like on the business side of things, no, we were consistent. And we were always having conversations. We've always like, and even like earlier as we were like driving, we were driving to go like get some food or whatever, and you like laid in. It's Sunday, right? And you're already like trying to plan out, you know, like we got to do this, you got to do that, you got to da 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 da. I was like, oh my God, I need 30 minutes, Juan. Let me just drive for food, and you can talk to me as much as you want. But even then, you were like, because here is where you get to watch, and you know what we do, the podcasting. This is where we are also consistent. If we're not consistent, like here, like if you're not watching this on Instagram or Facebook or somewhere, no one understand that we're on the back end of things. We're like making sure that the editor has files, making sure that like the designer is designing things, making sure that we're having conversations, like putting little events together, putting things together so people know that this is our passion, that this is where we want to succeed, that, you know, podcasting is it's a thing for me. As much as, you know, owning a business was for you. And so we've been able to, and we're still trying to like tie it into like our careers. And so, yeah. So, oh my God, I just went down and down and down that drain.
Yeah, that was a long, like.
Winded. Yes, I'm sorry.
I want to go back to what you started with, because I think that I wouldn't say that we weren't consistent. I think that I think sometimes when you grow, like sometimes when you don't come from means, or you don't come from a specific socioeconomic status, and I hate to say that, but I think it's true, is that you don't allow yourself to kind of go down the road that seems more uncertain or more unclear. You kind of say, no, like, but this you can make more here, so why would I do that? And it's a bigger risk. It's more here, so why not focus on more of my energy on this, where I'm going to get like these golden eggs over here, and over here I might get one or two here and there, and then I might hit a big one, but it's going to be, so I think and then it's going to take time, and it's not so certain. So I think to a certain degree, it was that maybe we weren't as consistent, because you kind of lose a little bit of like or you don't have as much like as faith in it. You kind of like, oh, it'll happen, but maybe it'll happen, but then you see, like, and you start comparing yourself to like people that have millions of views and this and that, and you're like, I'm never gonna get there. That's crazy.
And like you might never get there,
and you might never. But I think sometimes when you come from that, why I say that is, I think sometimes when you come from somewhere where you're living kind of day to day, or you're like in survival mode, you don't have the luxury of being like, well, maybe I will make it, because you don't have the safety of like, well, hey, my wife is an engineer and she's like making good money, and like, I'm like, we're like, we got one good paycheck, so I got time to like, do what I need to do.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
That's not true. I mean, I see what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying.
And I don't say that to say that that's everybody. I'm just saying like that, I'm just trying to make the point that sometimes when you don't have that, you don't come from that, or you don't have that backing, you're like, oh no, this is my safety net. Like, then it's harder.
Well, that's assuming that everybody has succeeded in that form, in that way. Other people, some people have advantages as much as some people have disadvantages.
Right.
I'll say that. But here's the thing with not that we weren't consistent. I think for me, Juan, is that I didn't want to be like cornered into just being known for one thing. I think I was on a journey, and I think I still am on a like learning, and I want to learn everything. And so, well, no, I'm lying if I said that. I want to learn the things I'm interested in. So,
yeah, but that's honest. I mean, like,
yeah,
maybe you weren't as interested in something, and you're more interested in what you're doing now.
I still love the social platforms. Like, I still love IG. I still love Facebook. So I'm still on there. Like, I still like. That's just what I use. But here, like in terms of like doing stuff for like for the agency and doing it for the consulting work, I love having those conversations. I love having those conversations with potential new clients, and when we are pitching, or when they're like getting us to see if we're a right match. Like, I like having those conversations, even when we don't get them. I'm like, oh, this is what they want. We're going to have a conversation. How do you think it's going to go? Whatever. And I like to see how on point I am, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, how, if what I'm thinking is something that can work for them, or if what I'm thinking, if I was completely off, and how can I like the whole that whole like it really test like my thinking skills, and it tests like my analytical skills. It tests my like research skills. Like, it tests me in a way that I'm like, do I know my stuff? And so I like that part of it. I really, really do enjoy that part of it. And the same thing with this, when I do the interviews on the podcast, it's like it's always a new person. You never know what you're going to get. Like, you never know how difficult or how open they're going to be. And it's not even them. Sometimes it's just the situation, right? They're not really good at conversation, or they're not really good at this, or maybe they're just having an off day, or they're having a really good day. And could the conversation have gone better? Did I ask the right questions? And just seeing like how much I can grow, and trying my best to grow.
But using that as an example, then, like, if we're talking about your podcast and the conversations that you're having, that took a certain leap of faith, for you to start, and for you to do it. So going back to the conversation at the beginning, what did it take for you to finally take that leap of faith?
I don't know.
Because I think that's the thing that sometimes, like, you know, that people are really curious about, is like, what was it that made you take that leap of faith? Like, what was it that made you, like, say, you know what, like, today's the day, I'm gonna, like, you know, set up these interviews, or I'm gonna have this conversation, and I'm gonna go for it.
In terms of the podcast, I think it was that leap of faith just came from I know what it was. I remember feeling like I was inadequate for a year, for a while, actually. It was right at the pandemic, and it wasn't even due to the pandemic. It was that year. It was so 2019, and then the beginning of 2020. Like, those years, like, were really unsettling for me. Like, that time, I think it was some short time after, like, my sister's passing. She passed in was it 2017 that my sister and your right? So it was coming up on like 2 years. And it's right around this time, right at the ending of October, all of November and January. I get like really people call it seasonal depression. I guess that's, I don't know if that's what I would call it. For me, I know, I can sense it, that there was something that I needed to change. And I remember, I think I wanted to do like an interview or something like that. And I wanted to have a conversation, but I didn't know how or what. And I wasn't, how do I put into words like the way things were then? It's hard. It's really difficult because all I can think is pictures. Like, all I can remember is feelings. I remember feeling like defeated. I remember feeling like, okay, I'm not getting back the last decade I'm having. Like, I need to really do something about my life.
But I think a lot of people can relate to that, because I think sometimes that when people are thinking about leaving or starting their own business, it's because they're unhappy where they're at. Like, they may be unhappy with where their current job. They may feel like they're stuck. They may feel like, this is not my passion. This is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I
don't know if I was unhappy, Juan. I think I just wanted to create, and I kept telling you this, I need something that's mine. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
I kept telling you, I was like, I need something that's mine. Like, nothing, like, everything's shared, and that's fine. I like sharing, but I need something that's mine.
I don't want to share with you anymore.
No, I needed something. Yeah. I needed something that I can call my own, that I built.
Right.
That I took lead on it. That I, that whether it crashed and burned, it was because I crashed it and burned it.
Okay, but what was it that made you finally say, okay, this is it, and this is my leap of faith?
That
you were just fed up, and you're like, this, I just need to, like,
if it didn't
have
happen,
something. It's now or never.
No, it's not what it was now or never. If it didn't happen, I was going to continue to be unhappy.
But you just said you weren't unhappy.
No, unhappy with the fact that I wasn't doing it. Not that I wasn't happy with myself. The fact that I wasn't happy because I wasn't doing it. I had been thinking about it. I had heard about it. We had another podcast called The Little Radio Show. It's still out there. The episodes are still out there. I loved it. I just didn't like I was produced by okay, I'm talking shit without wanting to talk shit, because that's not the truth.
I know you are.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was three of us in the conversation, and sometimes we would add a guest, and sometimes the conversations would go in a different direction, and then and I was like, I don't even like the conversations we're having, not because I don't like them, but because they weren't like connecting with me. They weren't the kind of excuse me.
But I think that's the thing. Going back to your, like, I think that's like when you said you were unhappy with the situation, but you weren't unhappy in your life. I think, or with yourself. I think that's also like relatable to people, that they're like, I'm not unhappy with my life. I'm not unhappy with, like, I'm just unhappy at the job that I'm in, or the position.
I'm happy with not doing this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's some people that they're like, I just want to visit it. And like, why? I don't know. I just want to see it. Like, but why? I don't know. Like, I feel the need to do it. So let me just do it. And when we were I loved doing it. I loved like talking into the mic. I liked, just doing like the little research behind it. Like there was like little like nanos, micros of what I wanted to do. And I was like, and I hate the fact that I had no control over it. I hated the fact that it was produced by all of us. I hated the fact that I couldn't decide who our interviewers were. Like it was decided upon everybody else but me. And I was like, okay, enough. I want to do this. I want to do this. And I want to do video podcasting. I want people to see, because so much is said, so much can be related to like facial expressions. There's this connection when you hear somebody's voice and you can see them, right? There's a, like you start to visualize a little bit differently. So when you hear their voice, you can almost imagine them talking. So there's something about visualization for me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to, and voice and sound, and I was like, I need to connect them. So, and I love the whole thing about interviewing people and having conversations with them, and just like diving into like who they are, why they are who they are, what they do. So that, I don't know. Did I answer the question?
I think you did. I think you it was like, and what I think you said is that it kind of felt like you were going towards that direction, and you felt like you just had to do it. Like it was either, not that it's either going to happen now or never, but it was more like it has to happen because it just has to happen. I just can't be in this situation or not.
I'm going to be uncomfortable.
Right.
And I'm always going to guess why.
Right. You're always going to question.
I'm always going to think like, yeah. And the thing was that we had already started the business. Like we had already done all kinds of other stuff. And I was like, hold on. I was like, why am I not doing this again? I was like, okay, the me not doing this is making me unhappy.
I think like maybe creating the podcast or being a part of that podcast made you see like, hey, like, you know what? I can do this, but I can do it on my own.
Yeah. No. Okay. So doing like, I've always been interested in this whole like this realm way before like either like the blog, way before everything else. Like, and when we like actually met, we had the conversation of like what we wanted to be and what we were trying to achieve. And I remember telling you like I'm really interested in journalism or like marketing. Like I'm really interested in that part. Like I'm not a writer, but I'm interested in journalism.
Right. And
so there's something about the conversation, the getting to know somebody, capturing it, and then going back and narrating the story. So I really wanted to do that. Like as a little kid, but when I knew it was like when I found out it was an actual job, you just didn't get selected. Like you can actually like prepare for it. Right. That you can get a degree education on it. I was like, I like this. I really like this. And so I don't know. It's just you know how things like branch off and things. I was like, oh, we're doing this. Oh, we're doing this. Oh, we're doing. I was like, okay, we've already done this. I tried it. I tried the podcasting thing, and I loved it. I loved it. And do you remember when we were doing the little radio show? I would set up my camera.
Yeah.
And I would record parts of it.
Yeah.
And I would go back and look at it, and I'd be like, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do that. Like, if nobody watches, if nobody listens, that's okay. Well, it's not okay.
Right.
It's not okay. I do it with purpose. The interviews that I have, it's because I believe there are people that you might be interested in listening to them because they have a lot to say. But with that being said, I thought to myself, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, this makes me happy.
Well, I think the reason I said that or the reason I asked you that is because for me, when I was when we finally decided to start the agency, when I finally decided to start an agency, the fact that I had worked at 2 agencies by that point really gave me like the courage, and it gave me like the momentum to be able to say like, yeah, I think I can do this. Like now that I've been inside the agency world and I've seen how it works, and I was like, I'm doing a lot of the work myself, and I'm like, and I'm getting a sliver of what the agency's getting, and I was like. I was like, I'm not, I'm like, I don't think that I'm going to come off the bat, like charging what these big agencies are charging. I'm like, but I can definitely probably make more than what I'm making here.
Yeah.
By doing it myself. But it did give me that kind of, that confidence. Like we talked about in another episode, like confidence, but they gave me that confidence, like to be like, oh wow, like I think I can do this. Cause at first, before getting there, I was kind of more like, I don't know if I can do that. Like that's a lot. Like that seems like very complicated. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I wouldn't even know what to do. I've never been a business owner. Like, I didn't come from business owners. My mom had a taqueria, but I don't think that's the same thing.
It is. You learn.
And it is.
Yeah.
But like in the moment, like coming from a journalism background, getting into PR, and then thinking about starting a business for myself, I was like, I don't know if I can do it. And then going into the agency world, which just happened, like, like I would say by fate, it just happened that I just ended up pushed into that realm. And then I was like, oh.
Did I have a booger or something? Why did you poke your nose?
No, I just grabbed my nose. But
I'm sorry.
But I was like, oh, okay, that helped me to feel more confident. So that's why I asked you that, if it made you feel like more confident, like after seeing like, oh, you know what, we're doing the show, even though it's not really controlled by me, and I do participate and I do contribute and I do my own, like bring in my camera because I want to add my pieces to it. Like I want to have my take on it. I feel like that might have been like a push or like a boost of confidence in it, at least.
Yeah. Yes. So when you were talking about like your own agency and things like that, and how you were trying to, when we started to do like the other portion of things, like the networking part, I found out very quickly that I'm actually not bad at it.
Yeah.
That I found out like, oh, okay, actually I'm pretty good at maintaining relationships.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, but so when I'm trying to make the connection here is that I know, like, there came a time where I was like, okay, even making my connections and networking was all for the business. It wasn't necessarily just mine.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I need to build something that's just for me. So even then, even though I was like, I felt like I was decent at it, I was like, but it's not even for me. Like this isn't even mine. Like I don't run the agency. It doesn't, you know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, you felt like you wanted something that you had ownership and kind of full like reign of.
Yeah, I guess that was my leap of faith. That I would be unhappy if I didn't do it.
Yeah. So I think the takeaway, like I think that we can share from what we're talking about is like, I think that you kind of do need to prepare, because it's not. I mean, it is recommended that you prepare. But take it from us, like that we didn't prepare the way that in hindsight that we would have been like, hey, you know what? Like,
hold on. We prepared a little bit.
No, we did. But
perhaps not monetarily. Perhaps like we should have probably saved up for a couple of years before we we jumped. But our preparation came in other forms.
Yeah.
We were already building relationships. We were already like in the space. So we weren't going from like, I don't know, from like marketing, PR and journalism, Juan here. We weren't going from that to like mechanic shop. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't far from what we were already doing. We were just going to be doing it for ourselves. And so that was our way of preparing. And I had, can I be honest? I had a sense that if we went into it, that we, yes, there was going to be struggles, and there was going to be strong struggles, because there was. But I was like, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, and
I was like, I have trust. I have faith in us.
And I felt that way too once we did take the leap, and once I was like, you know what, I don't have a job anymore. Just this is what I'm doing. I did have that like feeling like, no, we're gonna be fine. And then you were like you were always like, no, it's gonna be good. We're gonna do it. And so you were very reassuring and like saying like, no, it's gonna be good. And so that felt good to be like, oh, okay, like I may be freaking out on the inside, but at least she seems to be like, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go with it.
Yeah.
And
I do have to say though that there was a lot of questions, like even from our families, that like, how's it going? How are y'all doing? how's it going money wise? I was like, are you paying? Like, you could pay? We got a couple of thousand waiting from you? Like, I don't understand what's going on.
But the preparation, though, I wanted to go back on the preparation.
Okay.
You're saying, like, I feel like, yeah, you're right. Like, the preparation that we did was different. Is that the way we prepared is the way we knew how to prepare, which was by, like, saying, like, okay, when we were networking, we were like, oh yeah, we're networking for our current roles and whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
But we were also networking with the vision of, like, hey, you know what, we might want to do something else down the line.
Yeah, so and so works for so and so. So and so is in the industry. So and so is going to move on to a different agency or a different company, and we should probably keep in good communication, and we should probably keep showing people what our capabilities are. We should probably keep telling people, like, what we do. So a lot of it's just, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, we knew those things. I would say we didn't have the full financial, like, education that we should have to be like, oh yeah, like, this is what you should do when you start a business. I think we had more like the I want to call it almost like
nuances.
Like the I guess, like, I would say, like, the hustle of, like, mindset of, like, being like, oh, this is, if you want to get ahead, you got to do this and you got to do that. You always got to be looking ahead. You always got to be thinking about this and thinking about that. So I think we had that down. I think we just didn't. The financial part, we were kind of like, oh, it'll come. Like, no, we'll figure it out. Like, we got a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. Not knowing that, like, you're not supposed to, like, take your 401k out.
No, some people do.
No, I know.
Some people do. Some people take out their 401k to start their businesses.
But not knowing about things like, life insurance, and that you could borrow on your life insurance and things like that.
We learned a bunch of shit
that we didn't know about.
We didn't know. Like, we didn't know. Like, years ago, we should have gotten life insurance that we can borrow on.
Like, one thing that it's so funny how things happen, because one thing that we learned, like, when Edgar was turning 17, going on 18, we learned that, all this time you could have been paying him like $12,000 a year, tax free, and because if he was under 17, you could pay him.
Yeah.
By the time we found out, he was already going to be too old, so we never got to do it. But, like, all these like things that you can do that, like, if you know about them.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's one of the things that I am going to be doing for Edgar is the life insurance that he can borrow in it if he has to, if he needs to, for, like, I don't know, like a down payment on a house or whatever it may be, whatever. I mean, we're trying to set him up in a way where he has those choices.
Where he's better situated, I think.
Choices. I want him to have choices.
Right. I mean,
I feel like there were no choices for us. It was like a way of, like, trying to teach somebody to swim is like throw him in the pool. He will sink or swim.
I think the way we were positioned, and I think where we had the advantage was in like those teachable moments that weren't necessarily like, like, I think we're very structured in the way that we try to be teach him, like, we want to give you, like, we want to, like, make sure, like, it's the insurance, we want you to go out of state for college, we want you to do this, there's a lot of, like, very, like, there's a lot of communication about what it is that we're trying to do.
The reasons.
I think we, like, had the benefit of being able to learn from behaviors and things that we were seeing from whether it was our parents, whether it was siblings, whether it was uncles, aunts, people around us, that we were like, like, they didn't necessarily outright say it. But I think we learned and we benefited a lot from those things. Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, so going back to, like, what I was saying earlier, but, like, you do get questioned a lot, like, in your circles or, like, close proximity of, like, acquaintances and definitely family who are very curious to, like, how it's going. My niece, she was like, every time I would go over and you would be like, I'm tired, I'm not doing anything. Because she's worked with us for a little bit. She's like, now I know what you mean. She's like, people call me and I'm like, I'm busy. Like, busy doing what? Laying down doing nothing. Leave me alone. I was like, because it's tiring. Like, your mind is constantly, like, on. And it's difficult. It's difficult sometimes to, like, explain that to people, right? Because you're thinking about 10 different things and you're not trying to, like, joke. Even when you, like, get help. Even when you, like, people are helping you, you're still like, I'm still juggling 20 different things. How did I go from, like, 20 to 20? Like, how did this work? So you are going to get a lot of questions, and you do end up learning how to answer quickly and briefly. If it's something you don't want to be asked or you don't want to answer, you to like not brush it off, to, like, just answer in a way very politely, like, okay, I like.
Because
I'm still in the midst of things, so let's not ask me that.
and I think it is worrisome sometimes when when somebody tells you that they're going into business for themselves, and you're kind of like, are you sure about that?
Why?
Because you feel like, I don't know, like I feel like I'm thinking about like now, like to what you're saying, like if it's somebody in close proximity to you,
Yeah.
and you're like, I mean, you feel like even though you believe in them and you think they can do it, but I think you at the same time you're like, but are they prepared? Like, do they have what it takes?
For those who want to do their own business, I'll tell you this: prepare as much as you can. Prepare. Like, you want to like have a trucking company, make sure you got your license, make sure you got your insurance, make sure you got the documentation, certificates, certifications, make sure you got it all. Make sure you know like how you're doing. Like, I'm not even a truck driver, and this is why I know. Like, I think like hot shot drivers are opposed to like pickups or long drive, whatever. Make sure you're completely prepared. There comes a point though, you're never going to prepare entirely. You just gotta go. Prepare as much as you can into that industry or into that entrepreneur space that you're trying to hit, and then just go. You're going to have to like turn that key and drive, because my metaphor was like trucking, right? You're gonna have to turn that key on and just like go. Things might fall apart. You're gonna lose a couple of wheels. You got to learn how to fix as you go. You're never gonna be prepared as much as you want to prepare. And I'm telling you to prepare as much as you can, but then just go.
And then once you go, I think the other thing is like, try to get around people that are where you want to be or where you like aspire, that are already kind of, a couple of steps ahead of you. And not even a couple, I'd say probably like, a good like distance ahead of you that you can talk to and you can ask questions to and you can be like vulnerable with, and you can say, hey, you know what, I'm starting out at this, I've never done this before, like, but I'm starting out and I want to do this, and what can you tell me, or what should I know, and
what can I learn?
What can I learn? And I think you have to be very like you have to choose the people that you do that with very carefully, because I think if somebody's just like one step ahead of you, like, yeah, they may have advice for you, but it may not help. It may not help you as much as the person that is like, a yard ahead of you.
Juan is definitely a much more conscious person than I am. Like, he's definitely much more like a very bestowed conscience person. A very like he like, I don't mind. I'm probably more on the side of like, I definitely don't mind, because you're gonna have to learn that position. When somebody might try to stick their foot in front of you, you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn. Fall flat on your ass. They're gonna have the capacity to be able to stick their foot in front of you for you not to get the job, or to like talk like, potentially like lose you a client or something by saying something to somebody who, purposely or whatever. It might happen. It might happen. The odds are that it's going to happen, and you're gonna fall. You're just gonna learn from that. So my mindset is just be open to it. Be open to the conversations, and just take opportunity to learn from it. It's gonna be really difficult to grow if you're not willing to go through, learn from other people's mistakes. But definitely, and I tell Juan this all the time. It's like, he's like, you can't do that. I was like, look, I probably am going to fall. I need to learn what that fall looks like and how I'm going to get myself back up. I was like, you can't constantly try to throw like the cushion below me to, so that I don't hit. I'm going to have to hit, and I'm going to have to learn from it. So you're just going to have to like, you like be like one of those like, what do you call them? Like sideline people that watch you and be like, that one hurt. Huh? Yeah, that fucking hurt. Like, you're just gonna have to be that, like the party who's watching at some point. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Juan. I hear what you're saying, but Some people don't learn until it happens to them.
No, and I don't mean. I'm not sure I grasp fully what you like the difference there. Like, I think you were saying, because I was saying choose the people you're like that you have those conversations that you kind of try to learn from,
that you trust
carefully.
Yeah, what I was trying to say was that be open and vulnerable with people.
Yeah.
Probably people that, for me, and don't take my advice. This is for me. Reach out to people who maybe you don't know, because you never know what you might learn. Juan is definitely much more, I think you're more aware of, like, you take very baby steps and you observe them before you approach. Me, I'm more side of the, like, I'm just going to approach. I have no idea how this is going to go. I'm just going to approach. Yeah.
No, I think my thing is, like, when I say that, I mean that there's only a certain amount of time that you have,
exactly,
like, in a day. So, like, for me, like, if I'm thinking about, like, where am I going to get them, where do I think that I would learn the most, or where do I think that I would get the help that I need right now, then I have to be, like, a little bit selective about, like, okay, well, you know what, it's almost like remember when we first started the business, you know, one of the things that I found is that we would go through a lot of networking events. And some networking events we found out were different than others, because I think sometimes we would go to networking events and you know, it was a lot of people that were just like us, you know, trying to network and get business. But there weren't any decision makers in the room. So I was like, okay, well, this is nice to meet and network, but I need to get in front of decision makers, because, you know, my mortgage is due at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Like, and my car payments due at the end of the month.
Yeah, it's like, this is, I was like, this is fun and all, but we have to make money.
I gotta make money. So, so I had to, like, figure out quickly, like, where is it that I can go to get in front of decision makers, and how do I go about, like, growing my business in a way that, not that those people don't matter, not that I didn't want to network with them. I did. I did enjoy networking with them and all of that. But in order for me to get to the goal that I was getting to, which was to grow my business, I really had to focus on, like, how do I go about this? Like, and it was the networking that you were talking about, and it was, like, those one-on-one relationships, and it was getting in front of decision makers, you know, and so it was spending the time that way, as opposed to, you know, just going to all these fun networking events that, you know, weren't really giving me any like return.
Yeah.
And so when I thought about, like, mentors and, like, people that I was like, oh, you know, they might be able to help me, I also was like, okay, like, who's out there that I think that can really, like, you know, give me some information, or who I can ask these questions that I have,
you know, where I think
that I don't know yet.
You know, where I think we're both coming from, where I think we're both coming from the same place of growth, but we're coming from different places of growth. I think I'm doing a lot of more personal growth, and you're definitely doing a lot of more professional growth.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference, why we're saying different things. We're saying the same but different things. So yeah, I get what you're saying. I definitely see what you're saying.
Because I think that's different. Like, when I was, if I put on my hat of a journalist, I was like, I'll talk to the tree, and because the tree has a story to tell me, and the tree has a story that needs to be shared, and I need to talk to this tree, and so I went to anybody that would talk to me as a journalist. I was like, let's talk and let's have a conversation and tell me about your life, and and I just had that natural curiosity, because that was my, like, that's why I uncovered the best stories. I was like, oh my gosh, like, these stories, like, this person that I just started a random conversation with, like, has such an interesting life story, and I can turn it into this, or I can, like, include them into something else. And so it was a different, like, mentality. Like, but once I started a business and I had my mind shift, had to change a little bit. It was no, like, I mean, I'm still fascinated by those conversations, but, like, I'm like, okay, like, it's like 11 in the morning. I can't be sitting here just, like, having coffee.
I gotta go.
I gotta get to work.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think mine is definitely much more personal growth. And here's the thing: I've allowed myself to do that, and I've tried to grow both professionally and personally. And then a couple of months ago, I was like, okay, I gotta personally grow before I start to rebuild, like, professionally. So I took the time. I don't know if you noticed. This happened back in August. I was like, okay, it's time to, like, personally grow. And so I'm I'm going to have conversations. I'm going to introduce myself to people who I think are interesting, or, you know, I'm not going to like, but I am very careful about like, how some people like start to talk and like when they start to like say, like people will use like an incident or something to like have a conversation, and based on like how the conversation is going, I'm like, okay, this is not growing. This is not going to personally grow, make me like have growth. So I need to like not. So yeah.
But I never thought about it that way. But I think right now that you said that, it was like, oh yeah, like I do definitely identify with that a lot more. Like if I think about where I was when I was a journalist, as opposed to like where you are like right now in personal growth, is like that there are a lot of more similarities there.
Yeah.
I think. Then, you know, there are like when I think sometimes we butt heads when we're like, no, but business, and you're like, no, but I'm not talking about business, and I'm like, no, but I'm talking about business.
Yeah, we do. I was gonna allow myself to shift back into like that mindset of like, okay, personal growth is gonna have to start looking like taking care of myself, like mentally, going back to the therapist, going back to like all those other places, right? Not staying stuck, and like, you know, trying to just think my thought outs. That made no sense, but it made sense to me. But I hope my shift happens like sooner than like at the mid when we come back. So like at the middle of December, like that's when I'm gonna allow myself to shift back. I'm hoping the shift happens faster than it should, but I'm giving myself a grace period of like a month or two for that to happen. So I don't want to like pull myself back into like, okay, it's hit the ground running. Like, I'm like, okay, no, I'm going to take my time.
Yeah, and I think things have a way of like happening the way they're supposed to, and I think, you know, I think you're already seeing that, you know, based on the things that the decisions you've made, the leap that you took to start this podcast, and the conversations you've started, and the, you know, relationship you're building, you're already seeing that path. So I think that things always like, I mean, that's the way like things happen. Like for me, like going from journalism to going into whatever, like you know, like it was just like a progression.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it ends up being. But I think like you said, like when this camera went off, we've been talking for a long time, guys.
A while. we're going to wrap this one up, because at this point we've been talking for about 50 minutes.
But I think the main thing that we did want you to take away, you know, is that if you're thinking about taking a leap of faith, you know, I think, like you said earlier, I mean, definitely you want to prepare. You want to make sure that you're doing something that you're already familiar with. You want to make sure that you have kind of if you're able to have those financials like in a good place, and you know that you're just a little bit you're thoughtful about how you're doing it. But it is possible, and you can like go. Like you can't take that leap of faith, even though sometimes it can feel daunting. It can feel like, oh, I'm not sure I'm ready. I'm not sure like I can do it. Like you're never gonna be, if you wait to be ready, you're never gonna be ready, because you're always gonna like give it a second thought.
Yeah, I like that. I like your takeaway. I think I think that's perfect. I think absolutely. Like I think.
Oh wow!
You're never gonna. You know what? No, it was ridiculous. How dare you tell the audience that? No, I'm just kidding. No, it was good. It was good. It was nice. It was spot on. Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're, it sounds so stupid to say, but if you're gonna do it, just do it.
Just do it.
Just. Like you're not going to be prepared. There is never going to be a moment where you're going to be like, oh, I was prepared. Was prepared enough. Because the thing is that there's a lot of shifts that happen. Things are always changing, and it's impossible to keep up with those changes. So learn as you go. There's going to be some things that you're just going to have to learn as you go.
And I think something that I'll just close with this, because I know I keep like adding, but I think the last thing that I'll say, like,
the camera's like, we're done. It's gonna turn off. Watch.
No, I think this is one thing that you're good at. I think that like if you're already a couple of steps ahead, you know, and if you can turn back and like help somebody out and like just give them like, hey, you know what, like let me tell you a little bit about how I did it, or like let me like you know, just give you some like information if they ask.
Don't just volunteer that. They'd probably be like, who the the hell are you?
No, I know, but like sometimes people don't know even to ask. So and it's happened where, like where you're like, oh, you know what, like we can probably help in this way. And
Juan, this camera's really gonna turn off.
no, I know, that's what I'm saying. And,
Okay. Sorry. It's just we got about 2 minutes.
All right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're in a position to be able to turn back and to be able to help somebody as they're taking a leap of faith, then do that. I think that it makes sense to do it. But I think the battery's not running out. Angelica's ready to go.
No, it's stressing me out. It's stressing me out because we've gotten up and turned it on and off a couple of times. So I think this is really good. No, it's stressing me out because there's no reason for us to change the battery if we can like wrap this one up.
I think I'm not trying to make it long.
I know, but you wrapped it up so beautifully earlier. Now I got so many questions, like because you started divulging all kinds of other stuff, and I want to follow up, and we need to wrap this one up.
All right. Well, we'll do it next time.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, let somebody know, share it with a friend or somebody that you know that you think could benefit. And if you find us on Apple or go to Apple, leave us a rating or review. It really helps us to find new people that are listening to our show.
Yeah. So if we might not be the audience for you, we might be the audience for maybe your aunt, your tia, your mom, your uncle. I don't know. Somebody's out there willing to listen to our shenanigans. But with that,
we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Hasta luego. Bye-bye.